Right now, as Badger homecoming weekend wraps up, we take you to some of the festivities. Also, trying to cap off homecoming weekend, the Badger football team is looking to take down third-ranked Penn State against the Nittany Lions. And we're following the campaign trail as we are just a little over a week from Election Day. That's all coming up on News 3 Now at 10. Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jalen Banks. It's been a beautiful fall day so far. Let's get a look at your first one forecast with meteorologist Blaze Keller, who's out on the weather patio, sporting the jacket. How does it feel out there?
I've got the jacket on, you've got the sweater on, because it does feel a little bit chilly in the studio as we continue to cool on down this evening. The clear to mostly clear conditions, despite the light southerly winds, are going to allow for us to really and rather quickly cool into those low to mid 30s, if not the upper 20s in some spots. Hustisford, we're at 41, 33 at Sullivan at the National Weather Service there in Sullivan. It's 39 in Green Lake, 41 in Madison, 39 in Fenimore, and 30 in Packwaukee. Again, the clear to mostly clear conditions could allow for some patchy frost waking up on your Sunday morning. We're going to stay quiet throughout your Sunday, but daily rain chances begin to increase Monday, Tuesday, and especially into Wednesday of your upcoming work week. Let's jump ahead to the best chance, which is going to be Wednesday, especially into the afternoon and evening as a cold front moves on through. Now, this could also bring us a chance for some severe weather, so stay with News 3 Now. We'll keep you updated should we make Wednesday an alert day, but for now, we're just tracking that beneficial rain anywhere between 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch across a lot of southern Wisconsin, which would be some good news. Quiet tonight, we're going to track even more rain chances that could impact southern Wisconsin after Wednesday in your extended forecast. That's coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Blaze, we'll see you then. Tonight's Wisconsin football game has been circled on the schedule for a really long time. It's homecoming, Camp Randall under the lights, and by the way, number 3 Penn State is in town. Andrew Bancha joins us in studio with the highlights. Andrew.
Yeah, Jalen, you hit the nail on the head. This one is as big as it gets. And not only did the Badgers take a lead into halftime, but they played the second half against Penn State's backup quarterback. Turns out, though, unfortunately for Bucky, it didn't really matter. 21 to 13 is the score. We find ourselves in the fourth quarter, late in it. Penn State had to turn to their backup quarterback in the second half, but didn't really matter. They take a 28-13 lead late in the fourth quarter, and Wisconsin falls in a game that really had a ton of hope at points, was good in some ways, but there are no moral victories. Penn State takes it at Camp Randall. 28-13 is the final score. And coming up in sports, we will take a full breakdown of this game, how the Badgers took an early lead and how things went sideways, coming up later in the main sports block.
All right, Andrew, we'll see you then. Well, Wisconsin is full of festivities when it comes to homecoming, but one group is using tonight's big crowds in order to make an impact in the world of Narcan. Take a look.
Instead of things like hot dogs and hamburgers at this tailgate, you'll find Narcan. It's the emergency treatment for an opioid overdose. The Ready to Rescue initiative is working to help break the stigma around opioid emergencies and helping to teach the community on how to respond. Ready to Rescue, a message plastered outside Union South.
We're all about teaching people about the risks of opioids, what an opioid emergency looks like, and how to respond with Narcan.
Bonnie Milas has a personal reason for being here.
Having, unfortunately, tragically lost both of my children to drug overdose, I had the experience of having had to rescue them in the home.
But Bonnie's working to break the stigma.
A lot of people are afraid to even be seen with Narcan. You know, they think that it signifies that either they or someone in their family has a problem with drugs, but I'd really like to change that narrative.
More than 80,000 people in the U.S. die from opioid overdoses every year, about 1,500 right here in Wisconsin.
It's so important for us to find engaged audiences and really be able to provide meaningful education, meaningful information to them so that ultimately they can make the choice to be prepared.
Saturday's tailgate works to train people to recognize the signs of an opioid emergency, the importance of raising awareness for college-age students, and how to use and access Narcan in 3 steps.
Lay the person down, that's the first one. Spray Narcan nasal spray into their nostril and stay. That's the 3rd step.
3 steps, Bonnie says, are a lifesaver.
And when you go out at night, you just don't know. So to have even one person who's armed with this life-saving medicine that, again, it might just be your child or your best friend whose life is saved.
Narcan is available over the counter at places like Walgreens and CVS. UW-Madison also has 12 places on campus where you can get a box for free. Reporting in Madison, Ellie Liberté, News 3 Now.
Ellie, thank you. UW-Madison's homecoming tradition is back. This past week has been filled with festivities. Some of those events include Fill the Hill, a block party, a multicultural yard show, parade, and of course today's game against Penn State. Downtown Madison was filled with fans today showing their support for the Badgers.
Nothing like game day in Madison. We came down from Milwaukee because we never miss homecoming. The energy is in the air to see all the alumni, the students here, bring in the festivities. We're getting ready to jump around, and it's just a great feel in the air.
This is the 114th year of homecoming for the Badgers. To more local news, a man is in custody Saturday after Prairie du Chien police said another man was found dead in a home Friday night. Police Chief Kyle Tanner said officers were called to a home in a 1000 block of East Wisconsin Street in Prairie du Chien at around 10:18 p.m. for a welfare check. Officers found a man dead inside the home with injuries consistent with trauma caused by a sharp object. Police arrested a 39-year-old man after executing a search warrant at a Grant County home on Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Tanner said the incident was not a random act of violence and the two men knew one another. A man turned himself in early this morning after allegedly biting a part of another man's finger off outside of a downtown Madison bar. Madison police officers were approaching the Soto nightclub on North Henry Street just after 2 a.m. when they were told a 23-year-old man had his finger bitten off. He was taken to a local hospital for further treatment. Police identified a 34-year-old man as a suspect. He left the scene before officers arrived. Police said he later turned himself in. The man faces several charges, including battery, disorderly conduct, and causing mayhem. A Grand Marsh man died Friday morning after his vehicle collided with a semi-truck in the township of Dale Prairie. It happened just after 6 this morning near the intersection of State Highway 23 and County Highway B. The man was identified as 34-year-old Glenn Tosh of Grand Marsh. He died at the scene. The driver of the semi was taken to the hospital. Madison police are still looking for information about a person who fired a gun inside the Westtown Mall Friday morning. Police said 2 people were near a cell phone store when one of them pulled out a gun and fired a single shot at the other. Those 2 people then allegedly ran out of the mall and got into a car. No injuries were reported, but several stores were put into lockdown following the incident. As police continue to investigate, anyone with information is asked to contact Crime Stoppers at 608-266-6014. Now to the campaign trail with Ed O'Keefe in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where Vice President Harris is bringing in some political star power.
I am asking y'all from the core of my being to take our lives seriously. So please, please do not hand our fates over to the likes of Trump, who knows nothing about us, who has shown deep contempt for us. Because a vote for him is a vote against us, against our health, against our worth.
For the second day in a row, Harris is focused on access to abortion.
Because of Trump and what he did with the Supreme Court, we are looking at a health care crisis in America, which is affecting people of every background and gender.
Today in Michigan, she met with doctors who provide such services.
What is at stake is not just what we're doing with respect to abortion care, but what reproductive justice means at large.
Well, Friday night in Texas, dozens of other medical providers also spoke out.
As a physician, I cannot describe the anguish of not being able to help my patients and the fear of spending the rest of my life behind bars.
But the biggest star of the night was Beyonce, who didn't sing. She stumped.
I'm not here as a celebrity. I'm not here as a politician. I'm here as a mother.
On Sunday, Vice President Harris is set to campaign in Philadelphia, the largest city in that key battleground state, where she's expected to go neighborhood to neighborhood in pursuit of votes. On Monday, she's coming right back here to the Wolverine State. Ed O'Keefe, CBS News, Kalamazoo, Michigan.
As the sprint to Election Day continues, Wisconsin stays at the center of the race with a slew of campaign visits coming up. Democratic vice presidential nominee Governor Tim Walz will return to the Dairy State next week in a push to boost early voting, the Harris-Walz campaign announced Saturday. Walz will make a stop in Waukesha Monday morning and will end the day in Manitowoc. The Republican mayor of Waukesha, Sean Riley, recently endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And Vice President Kamala Harris is scheduled to hold a rally on UW-Madison's campus on Wednesday. Harris will be joined by musicians such as Grace Abrams, Mumford & Sons, Remy Wolf, and members of the band National. An exact time and place for the rally have yet to be released. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump will host 2 rallies in the Badger State next week. He is scheduled to speak in Green Bay on Wednesday. He'll be joined by former Green Bay Packers quarterback Brett Favre at the Resch Center. Trump will also be in Milwaukee Friday for a rally at Fiserv Forum, the same venue where he was nominated at the Republican National Convention this summer. And we just learned his vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance, will speak in Wausau on Monday. And all that star power in town comes as celebrities on both sides of the aisle are making their final endorsements ahead of Election Day. Just last night, Beyonce appeared at a Harris rally in Houston. She joins other top stars such as Taylor Swift and billionaires like Bill Gates and Mark Cuban in supporting the Harris-Walz ticket. Our Ellie LaLiberte sat down with Cuban today to talk about the rising star power and how it could impact the election in the final stretch.
People who have had success, I think, can send a message that here's what's important to me. And if it's important to you, go out and vote. It's really just about get out the vote. And I think that's what's going to make the difference in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania.
Trump has also seen an outpouring of celebrity support recently. He has musicians like Kid Rock and Jason Aldean in his corner, along with billionaire Elon Musk and former NASCAR racer Danica Patrick. And coming up next on News 3 Now, Blaze Keller returns with a complete look at your First One forecast. And we take a look at the current state of the Middle East as tensions continue to rise in the region.
The other side is lying to scare you. Truth is, Joan Ballweg is a champion for women's health care. She fought hard to expand healthcare access for postpartum moms and supports access for IVF and birth control. We're voting for Joan Ballweg because she votes for women like us.
Washington is corrupt. Senator Baldwin says she fights against Wall Street, and yet she lives with a Wall Street executive and gets all this money from Wall Street. She says she's standing up to Big Pharma and Big Tech, but look at the money she rakes in from Big Pharma, Big Tech, and their executives. Senator Baldwin doesn't work for you, she works for them. I'm Eric Hovde, I approve this message. I'm not taking their special interest money, I'll only work for you.
Insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Kamala wouldn't change a thing? Their weakness invited wars, welfare for illegals, while Americans struggle. Now Kamala wants higher taxes on top of higher prices. We can't afford 4 more years of Kamala.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
We know what Joan Ballweg wants to do. Ban abortion and birth control. That's it. That's her plan. Sarah Kieski is focused on bringing costs down, and she has real plans to lower the cost of healthcare and housing, prescription drugs, and to cut your taxes. So if you want a candidate focused on banning abortion and birth control, that's Joan Ballweg. For everyone else, there's Sarah Kieski. She's running for state senate to finally bring costs down.
They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. Why hasn't she done it?
4 years, radical Kamala Harris created the border crisis. Thousands of accused murderers, rapists, even terrorists pour in. Each crime they commit makes American victims. Innocent victims of Kamala's open border agenda. They were bludgeoned, raped, strangled, stabbed, shot, and murdered. Kamala created the border crisis. She won't fix it now. Make America Great Again, Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
This election is a choice between 2 very different visions for America. I will take on price gouging to bring down grocery prices. I will lower the cost of health care insurance. Donald Trump, well, he wants to give more tax breaks to the wealthy. I will cut taxes for the middle class instead. You may not always agree with me, but I promise I will do everything I can to lift up the middle class and be a president for all Americans. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Sarah Kieski, she supports lifting revenue limits, allowing property tax rates to skyrocket unchecked. Kieski's backers want to ban natural gas to heat our homes, driving utility bills through the roof. That's Kieski's record, expensive and extreme.
The final sprint to Election Day is on, and News 3 Now this morning is focused on the races and the policies that matter to you, the voter.
We're taking a look at both sides of the issues and where the candidates stand so you can cast your vote with confidence.
3 for the people, only on News 3 Now. You're watching News 3 Now at 10.
President Biden says he hopes Israel's missile strike against Iran is the end. And the chief of the UN says he is deeply alarmed by the escalating tensions. Remy Inocencio has the latest developments.
Explosions over Tehran as Iranian missile defenses reacted to Israel's projectiles.
The Israel Defense Forces is conducting precise strikes on military targets in Iran.
Israel's military specified its warplanes targeted surface-to-air missile systems and missile production sites. Israel's strikes were in response to Iran's direct attack on October 1st when Tehran launched nearly 200 ballistic missiles. But Iran has seemingly played down Israel's latest attacks. And with reports of only minor damage, the hope is that Iran will not respond, says Brigadier General Pini Youngman, who spent decades advancing Israel's missile defense systems, including Iron Dome.
But if they will continue to launch and attack Israel, we'll hit Iran in a way that they will not be able to launch against us again.
Israel is already fighting wars on 2 fronts, in Lebanon and in Gaza. After storming northern Gaza's last functioning hospital, Kamal Adwan, the IDF pulled back today, leaving behind destruction and death. CBS News spoke to the hospital's director, Hassam Abu Safia, earlier this week.
We don't have medicine, medications, medical supply, food, water, blood unit, so we have catastrophic situations.
That situation now a personal tragedy. An Israeli sniper shot his 16-year-old son Ibrahim in the head. Dr. Safia today buried him, just 16 years old. Remy Inocencio, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
And tonight, President Biden said he hopes Israel strikes in Iran will be the end yet again of this round of fighting. The U.S. warning Iran not to strike back at Israel to avoid blowing this conflict into a regional war. Now let's get a look at your first one forecast with meteorologist Blaze Keller. Blaze, a beautiful fall day it's been.
It was, yes, and we're going to have another beautiful and rain-free day on your Sunday, but that changes into next week. So far, from the start of the month through today's date in the Madison area, and I think it's safe to say that this extends to a lot of southern Wisconsin, if not a lot of the state. This is our 10th driest, October 1st through 26th in recorded history. Now, I just mentioned that we're going to see more rain in the coming days, but if we were to see no rain from this date forward through the end of the month, this would be Madison's 7th driest October on record. And that's the reason why our drought conditions have not only worsened across southern Wisconsin, but expanded across a lot of the state. The latest drought monitor data showing nearly 80% of Wisconsin now suffering from moderate drought conditions, the light brown here, with 30% of the state suffering from severe drought conditions. But there is some good news. As I said, rain chances are increasing. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we see near daily rain chances, especially Wednesday into Wednesday night. And then we jump ahead to really the second half of our extended forecast. The Climate Prediction Center is also picking up on an increased chance for more rain. And the reason is because our blocking pattern off to the Pacific Northwest is weakening and or being pushed off towards the south and the west further into the Pacific. And we're going to see a couple of high pressure systems continue to place themselves here as they move out of Canada. And that's going to allow for southerly winds to move a lot more of this moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico into the southern plains and then further north into the central plains, northern plains, and then eventually impact us here across the Great Lakes as we look ahead to the end of your upcoming weekend into that following week, which would be about the end of the Climate Prediction Center prediction outlook for the next 6 to 10 days, where they have us in about a 30 to 40 to 40 to 50% chance of seeing what are the normal conditions. Which is some good news because we've only had 4 days this month so far of measurable rain. Back on the 4th, the 12th, the 13th, and most recently the 24th. And we've only accumulated about 0.3 of an inch for the entire month when we should accumulate over 2 inches of rain. Now, September's data was recently released, and I encourage you to head on over to our latest Beyond the Barometer, because even though it was one of Wisconsin's driest and warmest Septembers on record, the state is still operating with a surplus of rainfall. Now, we're not expecting the hottest Halloween on record or the coldest Halloween on record this year. We're actually going to be pretty on average, with an average high of about 52 degrees over the last 150-something years, and that's what we're predicting this Halloween as well. And then Jalen and folks at home, as I said, as we look ahead to that following week, we could see rain chances starting that Sunday through that following Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm happy it's going to be a more average one, because last Halloween I was out in the snow, I was doing live shots and whatnot, which is fine. Got to, you know, snack some candy here and there, but definitely looking forward to getting a more average Halloween.
Yeah, it'll be a nice one this year.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Blaze. Andrew joins up with sports after the break.
News 3 Now First Warn Weather is brought to you by Lazy Boy Home Furnishings and Decor.
Discover a shopping and design experience as comfortable as the furniture. Lazy Boy Home Furnishings and Decor. Schedule your free design consultation today.
During COVID, Joan Ballwig took $500,000 in federal loans she never paid back. Then voted to block assistance to help other Wisconsin businesses grow. Joan Ballwig, out for herself, not you.
Insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Kamala wouldn't change a thing? Their weakness invited wars, welfare for illegals, while Americans struggle. Now Kamala wants higher taxes on top of higher prices. We can't afford 4 more years of Kamala.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
California banker Eric Hovde has a plan that helps him and hurts you.
Here's the math. Hovde proposed $4 trillion in new tax cuts for rich people like him.
And we pay for Hovde's tax breaks with a 28% cut to Social Security and a 25% cut to Medicare.
Hovde even said he would raise the retirement age.
You have to start changing the retirement age.
Eric Hovde still helping himself and hurting you.
Win Senate is responsible for the content of this ad.
It seems like everyone in Washington is either too far left or too far right. I'm Rebecca Cook, and like most folks in Wisconsin, I'm somewhere in the middle. I'll stand up to Democrats to fight for a secure border and stop wasteful spending. I'll stand up to extremists like Derek Van Orden, who wants to ban all abortions with no exceptions. Like you, I'm fed up and ready for change. I approve this message because it's time that we sent one of us to Congress.
I'm Tammy Baldwin, and I approve this message.
Eric Hovde owns a $3 billion California bank. That's right, he owns it.
And a $7 million mansion on the beach.
Eric Hovde proposed $4 trillion in new tax breaks for rich guys just like him.
And to pay for it, Hovde would cut Social Security by 28%.
Slash Medicare 25%.
And veterans benefits 40%.
Outrageous. Now we know what's wrong with Eric Hovde. This guy is not for us.
Not of money, I know. 20 of you, and you're rich as hell. We're going to give you tax cuts. We're going to pay you.
I am not rich as hell. I work hard. I scrape to get by. Donald Trump wants to give tax breaks to billionaires, but Kamala Harris has plans to help us. She's going to crack down on price gouging and cut taxes for working people like me. I voted for Donald Trump before, but this time I'm voting for Kamala.
FFPAC is responsible for the content of this ad.
I'm Elizabeth Grabby, and this is Home. Whether it was saving our family farm, starting my small business, or standing up to utility rate hikes, I've learned to solve problems by bringing people together. And right now, we have some real problems to solve. Corporations jacking up prices, and extreme politicians banning abortion. I'm Elizabeth Grabby, and together we can bring down costs and protect the right to make our own medical decisions.
This is China, and this is Wisconsin. Joan Ballwig invested thousands of dollars in Chinese companies, but voted against using state funds to help grow companies here in Wisconsin. Joan Ballwig, out for herself, not you.
Not that I'm counting, but it has been exactly 14 years and 10 days since Wisconsin football last beat a top 3 opponent. J.J. Watt was on that team in 2010, and they had a really good chance to do it again tonight. Number 3 Penn State in town. Bucky playing against a backup quarterback in the second half, but we'll get to that. Nearing the end of the first, Braden Locke lasers one to Will Pauling. What a play, and it puts the Badgers in business. A few plays later, 3rd and goal, gotta score here, and they feed the beast. Tawee Walker trots into the end zone, and check out this nasty block from Verona's very own Jackson Aker to set it up. Lays a man out, and Tawee trots in untouched. But then halfway through the third and 14 for Wisconsin, and Braden Locke puts it right into the paws of the Nittany Lions. They would bring it all the way back to the end zone for the pick 6. And that was the worst. That was a sign of worse things to come. 28-13, the final. Penn State takes it. The Badgers showed life in this one, but couldn't finish the job. They were outscored 21-7 in the second half. Bucky is now 2-13 in its last 15 games against ranked opponents. Today was the 116th meeting between Whitewater and Platteville football. It's the longest standing series in the WIAC. And unlike years past, this time around, Platteville is the higher-ranked team. The George Christ Memorial Bowl always brings out the best of both sides. Pioneers trailing 3-0 in the second quarter, and Michael Preemy says bombs away right into the hands of Brant Stair. Who else? Those two have such a great connection. A 40-yard touchdown gives Platteville a 10-7 lead. And then just before half, Jackson Chris said, you know, I've got the deep ball in my bag too. Brian Wilterdink brings in the 34-yard touchdown grab, giving Whitewater a lead that would hold until the fourth quarter. But the Pioneers come back and win it. 17-10 the final. It's Platteville's second win in these two's last 3 matchups. Purdue scheduled today's volleyball match against Wisconsin in their basketball arena, which seats more than 5 times the fans as their home gym does. And as if that didn't make it big enough, it's a top 10 matchup, and by the way, it was nationally televised. But despite all of that, Wisconsin won the first 2 sets, and then in the third, in front of 14,000 plus, Charlie Furbringer and Sarah Franklin keep balling on the biggest stages. Poetry in motion and impossible to stop. Later, more from the same dynamic duo. Charlie Furbringer puts it on a platter, and Frank the Tank does the rest. Wisconsin takes it in straight sets. No stage too big for Bucky, who leaves Mackey Arena in style. We'll be right back.
I'm Joan Balwig, and I'm here to set the record straight. I support birth control, the life and health of mothers, extending postpartum care, and fertility treatments, including IVF. I'm Joan Balwig. I have always fought for Wisconsin moms, and I always will.
This election is a choice between 2 very different visions for America. I will take on price gouging to bring down grocery prices. I will lower the cost of health care insurance. Donald Trump, well, he wants to give more tax breaks to the wealthy. I will cut taxes for the middle class instead. You may not always agree with me, but I promise I will do everything I can to lift up the middle class and be a president for all Americans. I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
We count on gasoline to power our cars, our tractors, our way of life. So why is a city slicker from Miami, Elizabeth Groppe, okay banning gas-powered vehicles? Extremists like Groppe want to eliminate fossil fuels, robbing hard-working families, farmers, and small businesses of their vehicles. Miami Liz's radical ideas hurt our families and our main streets. Don't let Groppe get away with it. Born and raised right here. Todd Novak is our independent voice for common sense, protecting our way of life.
You have a clear choice in this election. Senator Baldwin is a 38-year career politician. I'm a businessman and job creator. She supports taxpayer benefits for illegal immigrants. I'll close the border. Tammy wants to put guys and girls sports in their bathrooms. I'll protect our daughters. Senator Baldwin abuses the political system. I'll fight the corruption. I'm Eric Hovde, and I approve this message. I'd be honored to have your vote.
They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. Why hasn't she done it?
For years, radical Kamala Harris created the border crisis. Thousands of accused murderers, rapists, even terrorists pour in. Each crime they commit makes American victims. Innocent victims of Kamala's open border agenda. They were bludgeoned, raped, strangled, stabbed, shot, and murdered. Kamala created the border crisis. She won't fix it now. Make America Great Again, Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Kamala wouldn't change a thing? Their weakness invited wars, welfare for illegals, while Americans struggle. Now Kamala wants higher taxes on top of higher prices. We can't afford 4 more years of Kamala.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
When it comes to your critical medical decisions, you should have the final say. But extreme politician Joan Ballweg says you're wrong. She supports criminalizing abortion even after rape and incest. Or to save the life of the mother, Ballweg would jail doctors for giving life-saving care. And Ballweg even wrote the law that could deny women access to birth control. Joan Ballweg would put extreme politicians in charge of your body and put all Wisconsin women in danger.
Sarah Kieski, she supports lifting revenue limits, allowing property tax rates to skyrocket unchecked. Kieski's backers want to ban natural gas to heat our homes, driving utility bills through the roof. That's Kieski's record, expensive and extreme.
The First Warn Weather Team takes you beyond the barometer, only on News 3 Now.
All right, we are wrapping up the show. Final check of the forecast before we head on out.
Yeah, another beautiful day, 60s, plenty of sunshine to end the weekend, and then we see rain chances starting Monday through next Wednesday.
All right, definitely looking forward to that. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow. And as always, thank you for making it a great evening.